Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
This is FunBelt Commissioner Keith Gill, and I listen to the FunBelt podcast.
This is the FunBelt podcast, part of the Believe Network.
Folks, to Dusty Thibodeau of Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of Howl Razor, and Shane Metlin of the Daily News Record.
I think it's potentially a very good week for the Sunbelt.
But I'm just kind of going off on a random rant. It's just frustrating. It's Get your milk, get your bread. Snowmageddon is coming here in the South. Guys, we got to get back on a regular cadence of doing this a little bit more often.
Oh, okay. You miss us?
No, just the content.
Well, I feel like I'm out of the loop, Tibbs. I don't have my Twitter account anymore. And I feel like half a man. Like all my identity is gone. Because A-State Fan Rules has been suspended, and it's been.
What'd you do?
I didn't do anything.
I don't believe that.
My last post was about Curt Cignetti, and someone had said that Curt Cignetti would be the ultimate Cinderella story in college football. I wrote, I don't know if it's a Cinderella story, but it's definitely a Cignerella story. Like I made a joke, and then within a minute after posting that, I was suspended.
Yeah, it's all blacked out.
Now I get it.
This account is suspended due to violation of X rules.
They've had enough of that.
Wow,
they've had enough of that.
You know, you work your life, Shane, to put quality content like Cignerella, and the result is you live long enough to become the villain.
Well, I mean, nothing's more disappointing than when you think you have a killer joke that you post and then like it doesn't really get the reaction you were hoping for.
Listen, Shane, there's a difference between not getting any hearts for a joke, which hurts enough, and having your account suspended. So I go to the appeal section and I say to these guys, listen, I've had this account since 2012. I've built this following. This is kind of who I am. Can you please give me my account back? And within 5 minutes, they send me an email back. They said, no, you're going to be suspended forever. What? So it gets worse too, because then I said, okay, well, I guess I'm not on Twitter anymore, which is hard. I have an audience, but I have this Blue Sky account that I sometimes post to. I went on the message board at Arkansas State. Said, guys, this is A-State Fan Rules. My account's been suspended on Twitter. I don't know if any of you follow me, but if you do, I've been suspended. And you would have thought I said something like, you can follow me. I don't know, from like, I don't know, like some sort of criminal train or something, because they flipped their lids about Blue Sky. So I stayed out of that because apparently that's fire in the Arkansas State message board community. So I am without identity. Yeah. He's got the special effects going. Tibbs, what do I do? I don't have identity. Tibbs, you're muted.
You're muted.
Do you see how bad your situation is that we have X over here randomly hitting the mute button on me?
Did you get suspended just now?
Apparently. I think that we now have to go into the header or the description of our pristine FunBelt podcast X account and delete A-State Fan Rules.
Hey, maybe. Maybe I just adopt the FunBelt podcast, which, by the way, I tried and I've totally forgotten the logins. So you're just going to have to send me that. I am without any agency right now. I can't get on the FunBelt podcast. I can't get onto A-State Fan Rules. It's just, I just feel like I'm void of non-information. Was there a football game played last night?
I don't know, but before we get there, Shane, we got to put on the HR hat here. Do we trust him to run the FunBelt podcast X account?
We'll probably end up locked out of that if we allow it.
Well, that'd be a damn shame. Because we worked hard on that.
Yeah. And what people don't know is that 99% of our communication has been over the past few years has been Twitter DMs and
because I try to send you an email and y'all are like, just send me a DM.
Yeah, just send me a DM. Even by the way, even my DMs work on A State Fan Rules.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they've allowed me to keep that. But I cannot get into the thread.
You mentioned football game though.
Yeah.
Jeremy. No, there was not a football game. There was a Kurt Cignetti meme festival and Abella, what's her name? Abella Dangerfield or whatever.
What's her name?
sighting.
Like, you don't know.
I'd never know how to say it, so no, I don't know.
Who's this?
Yeah, who is this, Shane?
Hey, who are you talking about?
I don't know, but I'm sure that Tibbs does.
She's a Miami super fan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is this somebody that would be on the Twitters? Because I'm no longer there, so I wouldn't know.
Yes, and on Instagram and probably OnlyFans and every other social media account. Maybe that's where we put you, Jeremy. We start you an OnlyFans account.
I've got pretty feet. It could be a feet and Sunbelt account. That's something we can consider.
Since we're talking about Twitter jokes, there was a post where this super fan was crying after Miami's loss.
Oh, okay.
I almost posted my own joke. I thought to myself, hey, and they say it's not real acting.
Huh. It sounds to me, Shane, that you have just made another group of enemies, which you don't seem to mind.
Who would be my enemy now?
I don't. This person's fans? I don't know.
A certain industry coming after me.
It could be some dark shadow industry. I could see that. No, but there was a game, right, Tibbs? Yeah. I didn't get to follow it on the social medias, but there was a game. I did watch it, and it was kind of pure because I wasn't watching it through the lens of Twitter/X.
I thought it was actually one of the better games that we've had in this whole CFP playoff and as a national title game here recently. Two former Sunbelt head coaches there, Mario Cristobal at FIU and obviously Kurt Cignetti at JMU. They never mentioned that, though, by the way. Only that there were a couple of former JMU players apparently on the Indiana roster for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. Now, Tibbs, you've been in the Sun Belt longer than most of us. You remember Cristobal at FIU, right?
Love some Cristobal.
Now, do you remember it the way I remember it? Like, he was there for a while, and then suddenly he was like the hottest name in college football. Like, he got FIU to, like, they got a share of the championship, like in 2010, I think it was, like the Sun Belt championship. And then the next year, 2011, I think he ends up winning 8 games. And he was like, this is the future of college football coaching right here. Mario Cristobal, the hottest name in all of college football circles. And then he goes like 3-9, and that was it. He was like banished to Alabama. Do you remember all that?
Not really. I remember it being that he inherited a program that was heavily sanctioned from ineligible players on all kind of academic sanctions, and finally got the ship righted. Grabbed a local guy that no one knew about of T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah,
that really was the game changer that put FIU on the map. They were, as you said, able to get a share of the Sun Belt Conference title, able to get into a bowl game. Believe they won maybe the Little Caesars Bowl.
They won their first game. I think it was Toledo they beat.
Yeah. And then he couldn't sustain year after year. And they didn't think that was acceptable to have a local guy that was an established Miami guy, that was one of Snellenberger's guys.
Yeah.
And so they got rid of him. And FIU for the longest time was never relevant after they got rid of Cristobal.
No, and why would they be? And here's the thing: it was one bad year. It was this 3-9 year, had a lot of injuries, but the athletic director at the time, I can't remember his name, was like, yeah, we expected to be in the top 25 this year. That was our expectation. In 2012, they expected to be in the top 25. They had gone, had 8 wins in 2011. 2012, they thought that was going to be their year. And he got fired. And his reaction was, what the hell, man? It was one bad year. And then he was gone. I mean, it was kind of like, it kind of reminded me of Hudspeth a little bit. A guy who waited maybe a little too long before fizzling out. Even though Cristobal just sort of fizzled out suddenly, Hudspeth kind of fizzled out a little slower. It kind of reminded me of that because he had been linked to the job at Rutgers, which reportedly he had said, no, I'm not going to go to Rutgers. He had been linked to Pitt. Somebody else took the Pitt job, but he was already being linked to all these bigger jobs. And then just poof, had to do like a coordinator stint for a few years at Alabama so people would forget who he was before he finally went to, I guess it was Oregon. But yeah. Shane, you probably don't know any of that. You probably don't know any of that rich history, right?
I mean, I was aware of him being fired kind of like all of a sudden out of after one bad year. So I honestly didn't even remember what conference FIU was in at the time, but
FunBelt.
Yes.
Shane, it was the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
It was one of us.
That says more about FIU than the Sun Belt.
Tibbs, I don't know if FIU was ever considered like a classic Sun Belt team. I mean, FIU, they were both sort of outliers. Yeah.
I don't think they were, but at the same time, I know that you love some Sunbelt legends. There were probably just as many legends out of those two programs as there were out of the original 8.
Probably. I mean, T.Y. Hilton especially. I mean, that guy. He dogged Arkansas State every year we played him. It was pretty tough. But even their championship year, Tibbs, in 2010. Yeah, 2010. I think they were like only 6-6. They like lost all their out of conference games and somehow, had a good enough. And they were tied with Troy that year. I mean, it was a shared championship. It wasn't a great team.
It wasn't a great league back then.
No, it was pretty bad. It's getting that bad again. But yeah, like Shane, I bet you were. It was kind of interesting to you, a guy who covered JMU so stringently, to see Cignetti and all those old Dukes getting the job done on national TV.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was. I keep this whole playoff run. I keep just going back to the 2023 team that had so many of those players on it for JMU, and wondering kind of what if they lost that overtime game to App State. That was their only loss in the regular season. Even with that, if they'd have been eligible for the college football playoff rankings, they probably would have gone to a New Year's Six bowl. And then, the expectation would have been that they'd have gone and gotten their butt kicked, pretty much the same as Liberty did that took that spot. Yeah. But now you see those players, like the players that were on that team, what they've done. Yeah. You wonder, so what happens if JMU goes in 2023 and maybe upsets Oregon? How much different are we looking at the whole? Do we have that entire group of 5, group of 6 discussion this year about they can't compete? If maybe that team goes and wins a major bowl game before the playoff expanded, there's just so many what ifs thinking back to, not just that team, but what if some of those guys that stuck around, you could look back, D'Angelo Pons didn't go to Indiana immediately. He came back to JMU for spring ball.
Oh, I didn't know that.
around. Tyree Tucker was going to stick around. And wound up going after spring ball. So, a few of those guys were JMU commits early on that were playing and making big plays throughout this playoff. What if they'd stuck with their commitment rather than, following the coach, which sometimes used to happen. So not necessarily like in a bitter way. It's just there's so many things that kind of swirl through your head. Like, wow, what if just a couple things changed? Like how different are things right now?
Well, here's the big question now. Is tomorrow's Indiana going to be UCLA? Because if you look at the blueprint that Chesney is following, he's pretty much taking all the choice talent from James Madison. I think it's like 9 guys right now that he has taken with him to UCLA. Maybe there'll be more later. Maybe he's gotten his fill. I don't know. But can UCLA kind of do the same thing that Cignetti and Indiana did, simply by just taking the best from JMU, putting it on another team, and then running it through the power cycle and getting it into a college playoff situation?
That's the question. I don't know. This is maybe going to sound like a knock on Bob Chesney, and I don't intend it to be.
Oh, don't do it.
I don't. Cignetti may be one of one when it comes to building a program, when it comes to like evaluating players and knowing who to take and everything. And I don't know if that's fair, because look at what Bob Chesney did this year, and how he rebuilt JMU after all those guys left with Cignetti to get them to be a playoff team again and a Sun Belt champion. Maybe that's not quite fair, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because Chesney's personality is not. You didn't see this probably because I put it on Twitter, Jeremy. But
no, I would not have. No.
Somebody, an area writer was talking about Cignetti, somebody who hadn't covered him at JMU, but a Virginia sports writer. And I said, the thought that keeps coming back to me when I think of Cignetti here recently is Michael Jordan in The Last Dance documentary. It's the same personalities. It's that unbelievable drive. They're psychos, but instead of like being interested in killing people, they're interested in being the absolute very best at their sport. and but it's a psycho personality that they're just that driven. And Cignetti to me is just a one of one person. I think Chesney's going to have success at UCLA. I don't know if we'll ever see anybody match what Cignetti's done as far as just being able to take things to the level that he did.
First of all, I wouldn't discount the idea that Kurt Cignetti hasn't murdered somebody. Tips, is Bob Chesney kind of in a weird position to be following Cignetti and sort of taking the same sort of formula, but now taking it to UCLA? If it doesn't work at UCLA, is it going to be sort of a deal breaker for Bob Chesney?
Maybe a little bit, because you look at it, he, like Shane said, he was able to rebuild James Madison after it was really just devastated with everybody going to Indiana. Does he have that sense of loyalty from his players that they're going out west to UCLA? Or is he going to have to kind of put his own stamp on that program as well? And quite honestly, I think this past year, James Madison, that was a lot of Chesney. And so we know that he can get it done. It's also a matter of how much time does he have to get it done with the Bruins.
Yeah, first of all, UCLA and Indiana kind of in the same realm of football in terms of, a well-recognized name, but not very, like accomplished. Maybe UCLA has had some more success. I think of them back in the 90s, early 2000s. But yeah, kind of the same landing spot. But what about Billy Napier now? He comes after Cignetti. He comes now after Chesney. The results those two guys have put together have been incredible. Billy Napier comes in from first Louisiana, does a great job there, goes to Florida, mixed results to say the least, comes into this situation now at JMU where people are now expecting, I don't know, probably nothing less than another college playoff position. I don't know, Shane. Is Billy Napier in an unfair position?
Maybe to a degree. I think it probably is self-assuring for him, just knowing that he's won in this conference before. He knows what it takes to win a Sun Belt championship. And, whether or not the expectation is playoff next year, there's going to be fans that probably demand that. But I think most people are going to say, like, you got to have things break your way.
Yeah.
To be a group of 5 team. Even if you have a great year and you win your league and do everything right, you still might not be the one group of 5 team that gets picked, because maybe somebody else in the Mountain West or somewhere else also had a great season, and they got to pick one of you. It's never going to happen again, where like it did this year, where 2 teams get in over the ACC. Like they're not going to let that happen again. So, I don't know that playoff. You want to be in position to get to the playoff. I don't know that actually being selected is going to be mandatory.
Yeah,
but I do think it helps that he's been in the conference before. Like those other guys were coming up.
Yeah.
They had kind of to prove and maybe had to prove it to themselves that they could do what they were going to do at that level. Napier, at least he knows the formula. He knows these are players that play at this level. These are players that can win a conference championship in the Sun Belt. And that should help him, I think.
So Tim's another guy who is taking a lot of players from his former team and pushing them into his new team has been one of our favorite guys, Charlie Huff, no longer in the Sun Belt, which, oh God, it's so sad not to have Charlie Huff in the Sun Belt anymore, Tibbs. But he's bringing a lot of guys to Memphis. Do you think, I don't know, it seems like a shitty deal to go from Marshall, take a lot of guys from Marshall, kind of decimate that team, take them to Southern Miss, and then decimate Southern Miss again, who already had just a recent history of just terrible football, and take them all to Memphis. Should I feel sorry for Southern Miss? Should I feel angry at Charlie Huff? Or is this just business in college football?
It's the unfortunate business of college football this day. And I have no doubt that Charlie Huff doesn't love his players and wants the best for them. Sure, it helps that they can run a great 40 time, that they have, good pass catching abilities. But he's really doing them a disservice, having them transfer twice and still expecting them to get a degree and to be successful out there. Because, like, as cliche as it is in the commercials, student athletes are going pro in something other than their sport every day. You got to make sure you have that really nice, expensive piece of paper to hang on the wall to be able to be successful and give back to Charlie Huff wherever he winds up, because you might have that sense of loyalty to him and not necessarily Memphis or Southern Miss or even Marshall for that standpoint, but you're going to be loyal to him. So wherever he's at, he's probably going to come to you saying, "Hey, what do you got for me to pay you back for carrying you all these places?"
I think that's a good, ironically, maybe not ironically, surprisingly, it's a good segue into Sun Belt basketball, because I did put up now that I'm communicating through message board, I wrote on a message board about A-State basketball. And at the time, this was before A-State got trounced by Troy. And I forget who else. South Alabama also beat them, but this was before even those 2 losses. I had said there's just something about this team. Like, they're playing well, they're getting their wins or whatever, but I don't feel connected to this team at all, and I can't understand why. Like, I've talked to some of the players, and it's not that I don't know the players, but I feel like I don't know the players. It's like it used to be. You had this period where you could watch a freshman sort of develop and learn a new skill and get better and better. And that was the team that you liked, right? You rooted for the name on the jersey, right? The A-State or JMU or the Warhawks or whoever you're rooting for. But you were really pulling for the guys inside that jersey. And now I've got this collection of guys at Arkansas State that seem like good guys. They seem like, like just, good fellas, but I don't know them. I feel like I'm just rooting for empty jerseys right now. And Coach Butch Jones made a good point. He says, we're just having a generation of college athletes that are passing through these halls, and they can never say, well, I'm an A-State man, or I'm a James Madison guy, or, I'm a Florida man, or a North Dakota or North Michigan guy, or whatever, because they just bounce from place to place to place, and then they have no identity. Shane, am I just being an old man?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe you are, but I think these guys are going to be old men someday too.
Yeah.
And maybe they're going to look back and wish they had something that they don't from their college experience. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but my best friend outside of, you guys who I have a text thread with that communicate on most days, but my non-work group text that I hear from people, it's my college buddies.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know about you guys. Did you have a moment, you're 5 years removed from graduation and you're like, I don't know what my next step should I take this job? Should I go into this? And do you call the guy who taught a couple classes you had? He was kind of your mentor in college. There's going to be a lot of people who don't have that, as athletes or, just a place to go back to. And, maybe for 50 grand or whatever, it's the right decision for them right now. But I do think, 5-10 years from now, guys who went through all this portal stuff, maybe they went to 3 or 4 schools, they're going to be uncles or older brothers or the, assistant coach on a high school team that, maybe advising players that are coming up in a couple of years through the high school ranks. And maybe some of them are going to say what? I wish I'd have stayed somewhere.
Yeah.
And so maybe we'll see, it may take some time, but maybe we'll see a difference once people have experience to share in this, because I do think there's going to be people who feel like they missed out on something for not necessarily life-changing money.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. There's going to be something missing. I think with all the money right now, it's kind of hard. But Tips, people actually got kind of mad at me. They were like, hey, why don't you get to know these guys then? You're just being lazy. They're the same. They're your team. You need to root for your team. I wasn't quite getting across what I meant. Tips, do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that you're not watching these guys develop from that clumsy 18-year-old kid that takes a ball to the face because the passes are a little bit crisper in college, and then you watch them grow to where by their junior year they're pretty damn good, and then senior year you have that core group that's played together, they know each other, and they make that solid run there in Pensacola. I mean, I get it, but I feel like you're screaming at the clouds, Jeremy, of get off my lawn. It's just not like that anymore, and that's unfortunate. And I know that at ULM, for instance, you get a lot of stigma of, oh, y'all can only hire junior college coaches at different places. You know what? I feel like every college this day and age is a junior college where you know that you're going to have this roster for this year and maybe some parts of it for next year. But for the most part, you have what you have for this year. They're going to leave and you got to rebuild it again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess as a fan, you just have to adjust to that, Shane.
Yeah. I mean, if I was a college, a mid-major basketball coach right now, I would have somebody with JUCO experience on my staff. I just would at this point to try to tell me how this works. And what do you do when you only have a guy for, not only just you only have a guy for a year, but you're wondering, are they going to leave in the middle of the year? That's a JUCO thing people worry about. And that's almost a thing at this point. Talking about those guys who stay though, I do find it kind of interesting, let's look at the standings. If we're going to talk a little bit basketball, who's at the top?
It's Troy. They had people who stayed.
And they had some guys to stay. And you're not keeping, the player of the year. But we talked about this before, a Victor Valdez is a guy that we've watched for a few years now. and we've always been we've had this conversation both on and off the air. Like, yeah, I like that guy. He plays hard. He's a good role player. I'm surprised he doesn't get a few more minutes, things like that. And he sticks around. And what's he doing now? He's a player of the week. He's averaging 19 points a game. He
gets the minutes now because he stuck around.
And Troy is good because they had, a handful of role players stick around for a while. And that, I'm looking at JMU in the middle of a disappointing season this year. And I watched them play and I'm just kind of like, well, yeah, but if like this guy who's averaging 7 points a game comes back next year, and this guy who's a freshman comes back next year, like, they'll at least have something to build off of, and like maybe they could be Troy next year. But like, yeah. But that's kind of like what you got to hope for at this point. Is just, it doesn't even have to be your star players, but if anybody that you can put in the starting lineup next year sticks around, maybe they're a star next year.
Yeah, so Tibbs, is that the key? Do Sunbelt coaches just have to find a way to convince 3 to 4 guys to stick with them? Maybe not even that. Maybe 2 guys. Maybe all it takes is 2 guys to stick with you for the whole thing.
I think it's 3.
Okay, 3 guys.
Because obviously, if you have a big guy, it's hard and it's a premium to even go out and try to buy a big guy. So if you got height, you got size, you better hold on to it as much as you can. And that's really your centerpiece of your basketball roster. After that, you got to have the good, competent guards. Everything else you can kind of somewhat develop ad hoc and build that roster. But yeah, I think you got to have a minimum of 3 guys on a consistent basis to really be able to keep moving things forward.
Okay, so speaking of that, Tibbs, we've gotten a pretty good data set of who's playing well in the Sun Belt and who's not, and it's a lot of parity right now. But then you have 2 teams that have kind of, I won't say separate because it's kind of early to say separate themselves, but they have risen a little bit further to the top than others, and that's Troy and Georgia Southern. And they seem to be like 2 different kind of teams. Like Troy just seems to be that big inside the paint team, with good fundamentals. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Georgia Southern seems more like the guard shooters, the guys that can light it up from the 3. Tibbs, do I have that right?
Yeah, I think Troy's the most complete team in the league right now. Georgia Southern's the most sound offensive team that you have. And if you look at it statistically, they're number 2 in total offense right behind Troy, literally by about 3 points there. Defensively, they're towards the bottom. They're 13th out of the 14-team league. Yeah. So they are literally going to take the floor and beat you in games that they're winning.
Yeah, and then I look at a team like South Alabama. Where are they right now? They're 4th behind Southern Miss, and with Arkansas State and Marshall and a bunch of other guys. They're a team that's really good defensively. It's that damn zone. They cannot. I don't know what it is, but that zone is almost impossible to break. Shane,
it's weird. It's unlike it's literally unlike anything else in college basketball right now. Like,
why
they get teams to shoot more threes than anybody else. And we're in an era where people are like, yeah, take threes. They get people to shoot 40 threes a game and they don't make them. Like, even though it's a zone, I don't really know exactly how they do it, but you don't get into the lane against South Alabama. And, it seems like you got to get into the lane at least a little bit to have some success.
Yeah, Arkansas State ended up falling in overtime to them. And that zone, we've seen this zone now from them for about 2 or 3 seasons, and we just cannot find a way to break that zone. But how about anybody else? Tibbs, is there anybody else in this group that you can look at and go, gosh, they might have something going on? I don't know. If sometimes Marshall looks good, sometimes Arkansas State looks good, sometimes Southern Miss looks good, and then things fall apart for these teams. Is there anybody that can kind of match the consistency of Troy and some of the magic that Georgia Southern seems to have found?
I feel like Georgia State and Coastal Carolina have had some glimpses of what they could do. I won't say that they've figured it out and they're on the upswing here in the second half of the season, but I don't see them just absolutely tanking it and falling in the second half. So those are two teams I kind of have circled. Want to see a little bit more out of them to kind of figure them out. Defensively, they're right there in the middle of the pack for everything. Offensively, they're kind of in the lower end of the stats. So there's nothing that just jumps out and like that's why it is. But they're good to watch and there's something there. I just can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, I'd love to see Georgia State wake up. I don't know why. I feel kind of sorry because I know basketball was a big part of their identity. You know, they would say, okay, maybe our football team isn't good. Maybe it needs some time to grow the whole program. But God damn it, we are a good basketball program. And that just hasn't happened in a while. And I don't know if it's because of this new NIL situation or if the head coach isn't the right guy, but something's going on, Tibbs.
Yeah, and you know, even this past weekend they played at ULM. Yeah, they wound up winning by 20-something points, but it was a 2-point game at the half. And then ULM just decided that the ball didn't fit in the cylinder, so they gave up trying to put it in there. But Georgia State themselves look completely different in the two halves there. The first half, it didn't feel like they could really do anything right. And then the second half, obviously, it helps when the other team just isn't getting the shots off and getting good shot selection. But Georgia State just kept chipping away until they built that huge lead up. And that's what I'm talking about, how they're just really a good, solid team, but not for a consistent 40 minutes.
So if we're going to talk about the men, we should probably be talking about the women too. And it's easy for me to talk about the women because Arkansas State women are doing pretty good, except when they meet up with a team that has some big players on it, and they got destroyed by Troy. Troy is 6-1, Arkansas State 7-1, Marshall, Georgia Southern right behind them. Where the hell is James Matt? Oh wait, James Madison 5-3, not too far away. But is this another disappointing? Like, is this a tandem disappointing basketball season, Shane Metlin, for JMU, with the men not performing well and the women not on top as like they usually are?
And maybe, but I do feel like the women are going to get it together. They had a rough road trip down to Georgia. They lost 2 games. The Georgia State one they really shouldn't have. They come back home and they've just been blowing people out at home. They go to ULM on Thursday, then the Arkansas State. We're going to find out if they're in the mix to win the conference championship this weekend. They're still at the top of the conference in net. And you also look at the schedules. You know, Arkansas State, Troy still have to play each other again. Marshall's, Georgia Southern have to play each other twice. JMU's going to play Arkansas State. JMU doesn't play Troy. There's going to be a lot of shuffling of these standings here in the next few weeks because all these teams basically just have to play each other and start knocking each other out. So still a decent chance that I think the winner of the conference has 4 or 5 losses and it could be one of a handful of teams.
Shane, I know that you do a lot of personal covering of women's basketball, especially James Madison. Is there anybody in that group that you find that could be dangerous? You mentioned Georgia State. I don't recall Georgia State ever really being good at women's basketball.
Yeah, Georgia State has been a tough matchup for JMU, like ever since they joined the conference. They even when JMU's won games, it's been closer than you would expect. And they've lost some to Georgia State that you wouldn't expect. So, yeah, they're dangerous. But to me, it's really it's those top teams. Like you look at, it's those ones that are in the top 100 now. And let's shout out women's basketball too. Number 6 conference in net. Like they're the top mid-major in the country. It's a good year for Sunbelt women's basketball. But I do think it's going to be those teams: JMU, Arkansas State, Troy, Marshall, Georgia Southern. Those are 5 really good teams that are all going to like give each other hell. You know, JMU's already split with Marshall and Georgia Southern in the East. We're going to see some more good games. Throw Southern Miss in there too. Like we're going to see more good games between Southern Miss, Arkansas State, Troy. So I just think it's going to be a fun last few weeks of the season, probably.
Well, Tibbs, the net agrees with Shane. Does Tibbs agree with Shane?
Yeah, no doubt. I like Southern Miss, obviously, former ULM coach Missy Bilderback. I think her team has finally gelled together. It took them a little bit longer than maybe she wanted to and what everyone was expecting for them to kind of click. But they're definitely clicking now. And so I think that they're a good team to watch for in the second half of the season.
Yeah. 5 top 100 teams for the women, whereas at least last time I checked, the top team in the men's was Troy at like 103. So it's completely different leagues when it comes to the men's and women's basketball right now.
Applaud the women. They are the ones saving the Sun Belt bacon. The women get it done. That's all there is to it. Tibbs, is it time for our favorite segment of the show?
Yeah, what'd you post on Twitter? Oh, that's not the segment you're talking about?
I posted nothing on Twitter. I'm suspended, remember?
Yeah, Plex Promos, parting shots. We get to plug something, that is, give it a shout out. We get to promo it. I guess it's kind of the same thing. Or parting shot, make fun of somebody, something.
All right.
Or just say something really asinine, whatever comes to mind. Shane, please, you're too giddy on this that I can tell you have something great lined up for us.
Well, I mean, not necessarily great, but since Jeremy can't post on Twitter, I'm going to work his corners a little bit here because this is his kind of take.
Oh, okay.
But you probably all have seen today. Duke is now suing Darian Mensah, their quarterback, who wants to enter the transfer portal and go to Miami. And, he made that decision on the very last day of the portal. Seems like maybe there was a little bit of poaching going on. And now everybody's throwing a fit that, like, Duke could lose their quarterback at the last day. And it completely throws off, like, their season. What are they going to do to replace him? I'm going to work Jeremy's corner and remind people this has been happening to the group of 5 forever. Like, this exact same thing. Like, it's only when it happens to an ACC team that suddenly, like, this has got to be fixed. I mean, you can go back. We were just talking about the national championship game. Tyreek Tucker from JMU played in that national championship, had a good game for Indiana. Like, he stuck around for spring ball. They thought they were keeping him. They had him out doing, like, charity events and meeting with the media and stuff the day before he went to the portal and wound up at Indiana. Like, I mean, they thought they were keeping him. They thought they had a deal in place. So this has happened all over the place. It's just not until it happens to a school like Duke that suddenly we got to fix this.
Well, then it's a crime, Shane. It's a crying shame when it happens to somebody in the SEC or in the ACC or in the Big Ten. Oh, God forbid that happen to those guys, Tibbs.
And Q Wolf of Wall Street, one of us.
But my thought the entire time was like, why isn't Jeremy like his usual?
I didn't even know about it.
His usual response, but it's because he couldn't post anything. So now I know.
And not only that, I didn't know anything about it because I don't have the juice. I'm out of the loop, Tibbs. I have no information.
Have you started thinking of alternate Twitter names?
I probably will have to restart on Twitter. But if I could do my personal parting shot plug promo, it's a little bit of all of that, Tibbs. I am on Blue Sky. I know that bugs some people. I get it. There's some political aspect to it that just tell me where to go. Okay, all right. I'm on the threads. I'm on the Blue Sky. I want to connect with my audience. If you can tell me where I can go, and I know that Twitter, right, for sports is probably the way to go. I get it, and I'll probably find my way to worm back into that. But good God, I spent since 2012 to amass a total of 7,000 followers, and now I got to do this all over again. Help me, online community. Help me find the right place. We need a competitor or an alternative place or something because X is not reliable anymore. Just help me out. Help a brother out. I'll go meet you at your place, even if it's Facebook. Well, no.
MySpace.
If it's Facebook, I'm not going to be there.
MySpace. We're taking it back.
Why not? I'm sure it still exists.
Was that it? That was your whole deal?
That was it.
I'm giving the plug and promo.
Okay. Not
related to anything.
Ooh.
If you haven't started watching Landman, you are missing out on some great high quality trash TV.
You love the Landman.
I love some Landman, even though it's TCU and the Big 12 and everything else. Love some Landman. I love the whole oil patch because it reminds me of some cousins and some uncles, just guys that I knew around that were roughnecks. So it's fairly realistic. It's a bunch of shysters on the corporate side. It's a great show. The dinner scenes every episode make the show as well. Yeah, you got to jump on board the Landman.
Tibbs, is there any double crossing? Is there any backstabbing?
Oh, hell yeah.
That's all I need.
Shane, have you not seen this?
I am not caught up on this most recent season. I'm like a couple episodes into season 2.
Okay, as long as you're on board, you're forgiven for being slow. just post it on your X account whenever you're caught up.
That's cold. That's so cold.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.